All right, welcome to the Hmong Women podcast. My name is Emily.
My name's Douchi.
I'm Ariel.
And today we are actually going to be doing an introduction video or episode for Douchi, one of the three co-hosts of the Hmong Women podcast. As you know, Ariel did her episode and I did mine. And today we're going to be learning a lot more about Douchi. So to start us off, Douchi, how about you introduce yourself and what you currently do for work?
Yeah, so I'm Douchi, and I have a background in sociology. I know later we'll get a little bit more into how I got onto that major, but I'm currently in the field of recruiting. And so I initially started in recruiting, left it briefly, I went to higher ed, and then I recently got back into it. I actually love the field. I enjoy it quite a bit, and hope to continue to stay in recruiting. So,
okay.
yeah.
And where did you grow up? And if you could choose anywhere to live for the rest of your life, where would you choose to live?
So I thought really long and hard about that part, but I grew up in the East Coast. So I grew up in Pennsylvania, and this was in Reading, Pennsylvania. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of that before, but it was a tiny little neighborhood. Definitely not exactly the best of places, but I had a lot of good memories growing up there because the entire block that I grew up on, my cousins and extended family members grew up there. They were all Hmong, and we would just go out and play all day. We would walk ourselves out to the river, and we were not supposed to, but the older kids would always take us out there and would make sure that none of us would tell our elders because we would get in trouble for it. You know that saying, it takes a village? Because it wasn't necessarily just our parents who were watching over us. It was all of our parents. And whenever somebody had time, because they were all working, they would just like, they'll just yell at us. Like, put on your shoes, don't do that. I'm going to tell your parents. Or some of them would be so bold to just like, hit our feet or whatever because we're barefoot outside. So I have a lot of good memories there and pretty much moved out of that area about middle school, I would say. Now, your second question, if I could choose anywhere to live the rest of my life, where would I? I've thought about this so many times growing up. And living here in Minnesota, I really enjoy the diversity. I love that I can easily access like ethnic food, especially Hmong food, because I realize when I would go out into other places, I can't access that. Like I can't find Hmong sausage anymore. Or just like trying to buy mom blau or rice to make, right? So I love that here, but I do hate the weather. I know it's not that big of a deal, but I hate it. It's become a lot busier, so commute has been trash, and I want something that's a little bit quieter. It's like a mix. I imagine myself in a busy city, but not so hectic and chaotic with a lot of driving. So maybe somewhere where I can easily commute by foot or something of that sort. And then I kind of went down all the places that I would if I were to move somewhere, and that was either Denmark or Norway. I know we kind of talked about that a long, long time ago, but the reason for it is because I noted here, they rank higher in quality of life, happiness, and social welfare. The cost of living supposedly is a lot higher, but they provide universal health care. The quality of education there is often free, apparently. And then they have good parental leave policies, so roughly between like 12 to 16 months. So I imagine if I had like, decide to have kids at some point in my life, I would like to have leave that's not just a month or two. And crime rates there are apparently low, probably because not everybody is struggling to live on a day-to-day basis. So it would be either Denmark or Norway. But those are my
how
picks.
well thought out that was.
Yeah. I had to really, really think about it. I was like, permanently? So.
Yeah, and they're known for being really like pedestrian friendly and like walkable city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if you know, but I think it's Denmark where they like a big part of their like tradition with babies is like they nap outside in their little strollers.
That's
and like
how safe it is.
yeah, like all families do
I
that.
saw that. Yeah, I saw something about like, and even in the winter, I think I saw either a reel on Facebook or a TikTok. But
And they gift baby boxes as well to new mothers. So that's a good place to live forever if you choose to.
if I could choose.
Yeah. And on top of your interesting answer, well thought out answer, as Ariel stated, you've also had a really interesting like college journey. I know earlier you said you would get to how you got to your degree, but I mean, I think your interesting journey just reflects your like love of learning. You're always wanting to learn. So like, where did you go to school? What did you pursue? And like, what were some memorable moments from that journey?
Yeah. So college was definitely interesting. I did not start college off with knowing what I wanted to do. So I want to say that I went for the wrong reason, but I think I stayed for the right reasons. Because when I decided that I was going to go to college, it was more because I was afraid to say no to my parents. And they've always preached about I had to get my, at bare minimum, a bachelor's. I didn't know what for. I didn't know exactly the purpose, but they were like, if you get your degree, you're going to get a good job and you're going to be paid well and you'll live comfortably, right? That was the idea of it. So I started off at a community college in the local area, but after my first semester, I had got married. So I was 19 and I still didn't know what I wanted to do. And I talked with my mom very briefly and she's like, just do all your generals. As long as you complete your generals, you can transfer anywhere. And although that could be true, now when I look back, I don't agree with that. I feel that you should always major in something. Because after I completed my associates, I still did not know what I wanted to do. And that associates in generals didn't do anything for me in the real world. Like, it was still hard for me to place a job because I had no actual hard skills. It was just a bunch of random classes thrown together that provided me the credits I need in the goal areas that I needed in order to get the degree. And so I was really, honestly, irritated and disappointed about that because I was still working in, retail. I was still doing a lot of odd jobs during that time. But I was at the end of my associates and I realized I had to pick a major of some sort because that's going to determine where I was going to go for college. And then somehow I came across speech pathology. And I was like, okay, I like this. I think it's interesting and it's in the field of healthcare. My mom will be happy. So I looked it up. There were only 2 schools at that time that had the program. It was either St. Cloud or Mankato. I didn't want to go to Mankato, so I chose to go to St. Cloud. And at that time, my then husband and I both decided to go up there. So I transitioned out to St. Cloud after having finished my associates. And I was actually pretty excited because I'm like, okay, now I'm going to go into like the core stuff. But I didn't know what classes I needed to take because the degree plan that was available online it was for your traditional students who like high school tana, and then you go into college and then you start with your gen eds that's intermixed with your core classes. And so I was like, okay, I don't know how to work with this map, but I couldn't register for classes anyways because I had to meet with my advisor. So I go in and meet with my advisor, and that first meeting was so off-putting because she honestly did not care if I did well or not. She didn't care what classes I took or not. Like, it seemed like she just wanted to get that over with. And I say that because I went in for the meeting and I had my list of questions like ready. And then as soon as I got there, she had a little Post-it note, and I will always remember this. She had a Post-it note with the code I needed in order to register for my classes. And she was like, okay, well, here's your code, here's the degree plan, and then you should be set to go. So the meeting didn't even last like 5 minutes. And so I was like, okay, I already saw the degree plan online, but I'm still unsure if I should be taking the classes that I currently have like in my account. So she's like, yeah, if you just follow that, you'll be fine. I ended up registering for my first semester of classes there, and I was so confused that entire semester because the classes are now smaller, right? I don't have prereqs to take like these classes, but the whole time in my audiology class, she was the instructor and she was also the chair of the department. So it's a very small department. And she's like talking to the rest of the students, and all these, mind you, it's white girls and then one other minority girl and then a white guy. And so it's a predominantly white field. And she's like telling us about how we need more minorities, we need more men in the field. But at the same time, she really only focuses on the white girls. And then they already have their cliques and their groups because so they've been seeing each other in their classes. So I'm just totally new here. I didn't really know who to ask for questions because they're like, who's this girl? And then I realized as we're going through like the first 1 or 2 weeks of classes that even though there are no prerequisites to this class, like I guess meeting with her, there are courses that should have been taken first to better understand this class, because she would continuously refer to, oh, so you guys have already taken this in this class. I'm like, wait, what class is that? What is that? And I had no idea until afterwards. And I was like looking through the courses, and I don't know, I did not do the best in that class. It was so confusing. And I think there was a good chunk of information that I should have known better. But all that to just basically rant about how much I did not like the beginning of me going to St. Cloud. I really like had second thoughts about if I wanted to continue my education and if I wanted to continue it there, because I was starting to feel like it was just that place. But I basically ended up hopping majors. I tried out psychology. Taking the class itself, I didn't really care for it. So I took a step back. I feel like I should have taken a break, but I was so afraid to let my parents know that I was going to be taking a break from college. So I just kept taking like random classes, and I don't recommend that either, because now I'm using my financial aid on courses that I don't actually need, and I'm also wasting time, you know. So what I ended up doing was I took a look at my transcript and I got a better understanding as to like how the school system worked now. So I'm looking at the different majors, I'm looking at what I already took, and I realized a lot of the classes that I've already taken fulfilled the major of like sociology. And so I was like, you know what, at this point, I've been in school for way too goddamn long. Like I just wanted it to get it done with. So I decided to change my major from psychology then to sociology, and I actually really enjoyed it. So I met with my advisor when I switched over. He was also the chair of the department, and I absolutely loved him. I think he was one of the few professors or instructors I've ever had that seemed to actually care about what he was doing. And I meant specifically at this school, because my education at North Hennepin, I actually liked. I feel like the instructors there always cared and they always did really well at teaching. But when I was in speech pathology at St. Cloud, I swear they plop a freaking PowerPoint and then just read off of it. And to me, it's a lot of memorization. And that was my experience. So, but in sociology, I enjoyed it. I actually felt like if I didn't do well, I could be seen. And then, you know, but in the other courses, I felt like if I didn't do well, like she didn't care, whatever. So I'll just figure it out. But yeah, finish that. And I thought about continuing my education, but in all honesty, I like learning. And this is how I understood myself, as I like learning, but I don't like the way that you're taught in school systems. Mm-hmm. I hate the PowerPoint thing. I hate and this is not for all classes, all instructors, but the majority that I've gone into, that was the setting that I had. And so I think it was really good that I didn't decide to continue my master's, especially because I still did not know exactly, like I enjoyed sociology, but to continue to a master's and a deeper scope, I think that would have been terrible for me. But that was college.
Mm. And now she kind of does learning on the fly on her own. So
Yeah, it's very random things. Random things that spark my interest. I'll look into it a little bit more. But in the past couple of years, it's been more about like the focus is on what I truly like as opposed to what I think my parents would like for me to learn.
yeah.
So,
But I think that a lot of people can relate to that who may not have known what they wanted to do in college. So
Yeah. So, what do you like to do for fun, or what are your hobbies? Because currently you have a side business, Stasme Nails, and then you also have a social media page on your covers. So,
I do. Dasmi Nails came up, I want to say pretty randomly this year. I was going through a pretty rough patch, 2025. And I'm not mad about it. I think I had a lot of time and that stressed me out because it wasn't like a lot of good time. It was a lot of time, but not enough. So I was going through a transition and with Dasmi Nails, the beginnings of it had a lot to do with I like nails. I enjoy press-ons, but it is a luxury, you know? It's costly. I would prefer to just go in the salon and get it done, but realistically, in my life, I don't have the time to go out to the salon that often, and it's not always in my budget to do that. And so I usually would do press-ons because it's also easier where after that event or whatever I need it for, I can just easily take them off. But then that also became very costly too because the prices of those have gone up. And then also I just didn't really like a lot of the styles that they had. So I started to just make my own and have my own nails. And then that kind of led to, you know what, I'm just going to make a business out of this. And I'm very thankful for the support of specifically like, you know, just friends and family helping to share and reshare or to help purchase. A lot of my first customers, actually not a lot, I want to say all of my first customers have been friends and family. So that's been going pretty well. I mean, even if I don't have customers, I still do it for fun, especially on myself. And I've found some, I want to say like certain areas I didn't think about in terms of like customers, like working moms who maybe don't need stiletto long nails, or apparently I've been getting a lot of orders for little kids. So that's a challenge in itself because the nail beds are so tiny. But I was telling Emily about this. I'm like, you know, as frustrated as I get in the middle of like trying to make art on these tiny little nails, I enjoy it. I enjoy the challenge because it allows for me to just work with the skills that I have and develop them. But that's Dasmi. And then my personal page, this also came kind of randomly too. I always have an opinion and it's not always needed, but I enjoy sharing it sometimes, especially with some of these off the rail stories. And I like it, especially when I just need to take my mind off of the seriousness of my life. And so that's how that kind of started, reading off your anonymous small stories and just kind of giving my 2 cents on it. It's never anything to be taken so seriously ever, because quite honestly, I try my best to I pick the stories based on the first couple of lines and then the comments and reactions, because I don't want to be so familiar with the story. I do like having authentic like reaction. And so those I do enjoy doing. I don't think I've done them in a bit of time here, so I have to get back on them. And then the singing part is something that also I would say came up pretty randomly too. That was post-divorce. I enjoy singing. It's always relaxing to me. And there are a lot of songs that I will replay over and over. And so that became, you know, my TikTok essentially. And it's become something a little bit more than just social media at this point in my life. And so I've been lucky enough to have been able to be connected with people who've given me opportunities to sing, you know, at live performances and shows. I will say that props to all of the performers out there, because that's a whole nother thing on the stage. Like, I can never figure out how I sound, and it's a continuous like learning experience up there. So yeah, it's still going, still love it, still doing it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Have you always loved music?
I want to say yes, but I think because I compare myself to the way that my cousins have loved music, I always felt like I've never actually truly loved music. Because I remember growing up, my mom, what I've heard is my mom used to be like a singer, and she had started a little album with my Thai. I've never seen it, but this is what my uncles have said. This is what my Thais and them have said. And then when she got married and left from Cali, she stopped. And my mom used to like sing in the car all the time. She would sing in the car, and then she would she did pantao all the time, and so I was with my mom all the time, and she would like sing when she would sew, she would sing when she would like do anything. And I got really used to the old traditional songs, which is why I think I love and enjoy those so much. And so I think I've always enjoyed music, but I was never one to be looking up what's new, what's mainstream, what's poppin'. And my cousins were. And so I always felt like, I was never really a musical kind of person. I mean, they picked up instruments really quick. They all know how to play a type of instrument of some sort. And I remember when I thought about playing an instrument and they were like playing around with me, and one of my cousins had told me, you should just pick up the triangle. But yeah, I just never felt like I was very musical. And when I did try to do karaoke when I was younger, I was not confident. So it just never came out very well. And I forgot what that game was where you would, I think it was like a PlayStation game, and you can like duet together and you get points based on whether you're hitting the notes. And my cousin never wanted to do that with me because I was not good. But yeah, I wouldn't say that I've always been heavily like into music. Like, I don't know the ins and outs of it. I don't know how to read music, but I enjoy it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so you've always had a love for music. You don't have to be a music connoisseur to enjoy music.
I think that was the way I interpret it, because of like, I felt like a fraud because I would say, oh, I enjoy it. Like, I love it. I do it. But then I felt like I had to answer to the, well, do you play an instrument? Do you understand music? And it's like, no, I don't read music. I don't know how to read music. I took choir. But
yeah. Well, it's just like expecting people who eat and enjoy food to be chefs. It does make sense.
Oh God. Then I would not be somebody who loves food then.
Yeah, exactly. So love of music. Another part of your platform is talking about your experience about being previously married and now you're divorced. So what are just some words of advice that you have for others who may be going through a divorce or thinking about divorce?
Yeah, I really thought about this because when I was going through my divorce, there were waves of emotions that I was experiencing. And I felt like there was just a lot all at the same time. But for me, when I had decided to go through my divorce, I feel that I'm a pretty kept person, like as public as I think I can be online. There's still a big part of my life that I don't feel anybody should be entitled to. And at that time, I was not even on social media like that. I barely posted, and if I did, it was more reposts. And so nobody knew that I was going through my divorce, and I didn't even share with my closest cousins. You knew, and I think one other cousin knew, and then my parents. And I feel like I was pretty selective about that, like my parents, because I really did not want the news to get to them, because it will. like I'm Hmong, and if they're going to find out. And so I just did not want them to get the news from someone else that wasn't me. So I called and let my parents know right away that I was deciding to do what I was going to do. But aside from that, nobody else knew. After the divorce, I honestly thought that like but my aunts and everybody did really well at not, I guess, spreading the word. And it's not that people cannot know about obviously what's going on, but I think it helped me in my situation because I was just not in the mood to be answering to people why we're going to be getting divorced. Like I have enough going on. It's not a priority of mine to explain to somebody that I barely talk to as to why I'm choosing to divorce, And so I want to say that if you are choosing to divorce, and if it's possible, in my opinion, not everybody needs to know about your processes because everybody thinks that they need to give their 2 cents on why you should or shouldn't, and how you should or shouldn't go about it. And if you do need words of advice, I think you should know pretty strongly like who you can talk to and whose advice you would actually take. And then they give you advice, you're not going to take it anyways. It's just extra air, So for me, looking back, I stand with the fact that I would do it again in that same manner is what I'm trying to say. I still would not tell everybody. I would still keep it to myself. I think it made it easier for me to process that and allow for me to make that decision. And I have no way of going back and saying that, or whatever. It was my decision. And the other part is I have here is if you're unsure if it's the right move for you. Because I think when I do make these videos, a lot of the comments I see are people who are unsure if they should, because some of the factors they consider are, I've been with this person for so long. Like I've been with this person for over whatever many years. One thing I can't speak on is having kids because I don't have kids. So I don't know what that looks like in that divorce process or when you're considering it. But time, memories, the connections you've made through your partner, and then of course the love that you have for this person, even though it doesn't always mean like you hate them. I think people forget that factor is obviously you love this person, that's why you're with them. And when you're choosing to want to separate or divorce, it's not a switch, you don't just wake up one day and say, I don't love them anymore. Or I want to say for the majority of people, but it helped me to make more of a black and white list of the why I want to do it and what's making me afraid to do it. Because when I realized why I was afraid, it wasn't really because I was afraid for me. It was more I was afraid for, I think, other people. Like I was afraid that, because I felt like they loved me so much too. And I didn't want them to feel that way. I didn't want them to be hurt. I didn't want my parents to be disappointed and have to, and so I was thinking about that. I'm like, they don't have to. And at the end of the day, I'm not happy anyways. The reasons why I want to do this outweighs that. And when it comes to time, memories, and connections, I have all that now and I'm still not happy. Like, if we're not together in divorce, I will still have like the memories and the connections that I get to keep are going to be worth it. And if they're not kept, then it's probably just not meant to be that part of my life. But I will always say this. It's that I'd rather not waste the next 10 years of my life because I feel like I've already wasted 10, So consider your reasons as to why you want to do it and what's holding you back from doing it. I think that will give you the most clarity. Because I know some people are just, you might be emotional some days where, you're like, oh, I want a divorce. This happens all the time. And then when you you only remember the good things, right? So take a moment, take a step back, look at the big picture. What are your reasons for both of those moments? But yeah, that's my 2 cents.
So when you were going through this whole process, like, what was your breaking point? Because I think a lot of people teeter and totter, right? Of like, should I do it? Should I not? And I've never personally been divorced, but like everyone's been through a breakup and that's completely different. But like a divorce is like a step up from that. So when was a moment in your mind where you were like, I just can't do this anymore? And like, I got to go through with this.
Yeah, I think when I say that it took me 3 years, it's truly because it did. And the breaking point was really, it was weird because I truly felt like I woke up and I was just like, wow, I'm tired. And it wasn't like we had a big fight or anything. I think everything just, for whatever reason, that day, that morning, like it all clicked all at once. And me really realizing all those things that I had mentioned earlier, like those things for whatever reason previously, even though they didn't all align. And so it was like, oh, well, I was frustrated about this, but it's not enough to be divorced. You know, oh, he did this, but we'll still figure it out. And that morning, the breaking point was all those things were there all at once. And I could see it. And I was like, oh, you know what? Like, I'm thinking of the wrong reasons as to why I would want to keep a marriage here. And it wasn't, again, like I was angry or we were in the midst of something. We were already transitioning to try to make this new start work. And I still remember I laid on my bed and it kind of just came as a thought. And I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, I just really feel like I'm ready, because in my heart of hearts, I just really knew that I wasn't happy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I felt really like, wow, I just, like, you're there. I'm not mad at you. I just don't have feelings towards him anymore. Like, and I know I've joked about this before, but at that point, we were just roommates. We were roommates who were trying to make plans for a future in terms of like building a family together and having a house. And I was like, wow, how are you going to do all that with somebody that you don't have any kind of emotional attachment or anything about with anymore? And I just didn't think that it was fair, whether he believes this or not. It wasn't fair for either of us to want to do that. And then to have a family on top of that would have been just extremely unfair to the kids, in my opinion. So that was my breaking point, really realizing that and accepting that I truly was not happy. And also the fact that I truly felt that I would be happier without him and he too would be. Because if we were, we would not have ever gotten to that point. Yeah. So I feel better though.
I'm glad.
I'm glad that you were holding your stomach like you just got done pooping.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it's essentially what it is. You know, when you're constipated.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for sharing and thanks for your vulnerability. I know that going through divorce is not hard because I've seen it from the outside, and you know, it's a long process, and it's definitely not like a month and you go through the legal system and you're broken up. I feel like our society makes it hard and our Hmong culture makes it even harder. And there's a lot of bad norms that come with it, with that title or a part of you being a divorcee.
Yeah.
So what's something, and maybe this can lead into it, but what is something that people often misunderstand about you?
Okay, I also thought a lot about this question, and I actually kind of struggled to find an answer for it, because I felt like in order for me to, because I feel like misunderstandings are things that I feel like I want to defend myself about. And I feel that whenever there are situations where people have misread me, oftentimes it comes from people that I don't really care about. And so I'm kind of like, their opinions don't matter. And if you think it's important enough where you really want to know if this is true or not about me, I mean, you can come talk to me. And honestly, if I don't talk to you, then you probably are not important at all. And therefore that misunderstanding doesn't matter to me. But yeah, I think that the root of this question goes a lot on like, do I know what people are saying about me? And quite honestly, I don't know. Yeah, so I'm realizing I have not really considered what people say other than it's probably something along the lines of me being divorced, I'm sure that people snicker because I've seen like odd looks and stuff, or there may be moments, but I just don't think I've thought enough about it or care enough where it sits in my mind where I'm like, oh, I feel so misunderstood in this area. It's either I don't care about it or, I'm like, no, that's true. So I don't think there's anything unless, the audience wants to share what they think of me. But as of currently, in my current life, yeah, there's nothing that I feel I need to defend or clarify.
Yeah. I mean, and another leg to that too, I think, is like, what do people just assume about you? And like something that others don't know about you that you'd like to share, right? So like some of them might assume like, oh, Douchi's just like this pretty girl. She has no depth to her. She doesn't do anything other than like sing or like look in the mirror and do makeup, right? But there's more layers to people that people assume, right? Like I know Erin and I had talked about how people assume that I'm just like this major bitch because I have this RBF. But once they get to know me, they're like, oh, you're actually not.
You're actually nice.
Yeah, oh, thank you.
Yeah.
And like people assume that like might assume things about Ariel, right? And they're like completely wrong about that. So like, what are some things that people may assume about you and you're like, that's not true. Here's what I'm actually like. And if you don't want to answer that because you're like, if you want to get to know me, actually get to know me, what's just something that you'd like to share with the crowd where you're like, by the way, I like to do this. So choose whichever one you want to answer.
Yeah, I do feel like, because I feel like I'm always evolving as a person, and even from like the prior year to now, I feel that there are some parts that are still the same. I still love doing the hobbies that I do, but I'm slowly becoming more of my own. I do agree with you. I always forget about that. Yes, I, for whatever reason, always come off as I'm really slow and dumb. And the sad thing is I started to realize that I would play into it because it just makes things easier on my end. Because there's been situations, whether it be in group settings or, in work settings, which that'd be a whole nother episode for y'all. So yes, people often, for whatever reason, perceive me as being thoughtless, mindless, and that my experiences, like, I can't be validated for them. And I say this because I have been in relationships that have had that too, where I would give my 2 cents and patterns. I like to look at the patterns of things. And so it's like, okay, if this is happening over and over, what can we do to solve it? What can we do to fix it? And by no means am I saying that I'm perfect. And even in those conversations, that's how I preface those conversations, is that it's because I'm not perfect and because I've gone through this already. This is how I dealt with it, and this is a recommendation. Or no, I literally have read this. It's literally in a study. Here it is. And the responses I would get is more like, oh, okay. And then later on, I would get I don't know how to put this. I've talked to Emily about this before, where they would come back and tell me the things that I told them in the last conversation. As if this is like new information. So I was listening to this and that, or I was talking to so-and-so and they told me this, and it was just so mind-blowing because I've never thought about that before. And it's honestly just slap in the face. I don't value the things you say or you do. And so it makes me realize, okay, what exactly am I in your life if you don't value any kind of intelligence I have? And if you don't think I have any, what is my purpose of being here? I like to surround myself with people who can help me to grow. And I can't imagine just being around someone just because they look a certain way, or I guess I just can't understand any of that. So I want to say that, yes, that is a misunderstanding that I often get, is that, yes, I like to look cute. I believe that you look good, you feel good. But that is not all I do on a day-to-day basis. I always love to learn. I love to grow, and I love to develop myself. And I feel that I'm always changing. And I feel that, as a human, you should always be looking to grow and change. I don't want to be stagnant in my life, but for whatever reason, oftentimes when I meet people, that's all that it is. It's that do TikToks.
What you're saying, you're telling us that you don't sit in front of the mirror and ask who's the prettiest in all the land?
It's exactly what I do. I just clean my mirror. I'm like, and then I tell myself it's me.
Exactly.
So
That's all she does, you guys.
that's all it is. Nothing else up in here. If you listen carefully when I do this, you can hear the little nut.
And so to close, what is one ultimate goal that you have among others that you know you want to accomplish before we get old?
So my absolute goal, for the longest time, I really thought hard about if I wanted to share this. I don't love sharing goals because
Oh, girl, no one's pressuring you.
I know.
I
know,
that
I
much
thought about
pressure.
I was like, it's okay if I share it. It'll hold me accountable is what it is.
You only share what you want to share.
Oh.
So because I've learned that sometimes I get so excited at the beginning of the projects, but they don't come to fruition, and then I feel like I'm lying. So that's an internal thing that I'm working on, okay? But one of the big goals that I have and I've always had is I want to start my own business. And I've talked about this for quite some time. I really want to do a banquet, right? But apparently banquets be popping up left and right around here, okay? I don't know what's going on. So we'll see what happens with that. And the reason for the banquet isn't because, it's that I want to have it as a base income so that I can hopefully be able to help others in their dreams and their goals. So be able to create scholarship programs through that because, you can't be doing that without no money. So in short, that's what it is. But the second big goal for me is I really want to get a permanent home. I used to feel like I had to be in a marriage. And then when I decided all this, in my current relationship even, I'm like, whether you're here or not, I'm getting myself a home. And I know my dad's like, you don't need to do all that. And I just don't want to be waiting on someone so that I can have something permanent, and it's my safe place. I want it to be mine. So that is something that I'm currently working on. And also, if something happens, I want my parents to be able to, rely on me and be able to come stay with me. So that's my other big goal. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah. I hope you get your permanent home soon.
Me too. The market is ass though.
Yeah. Well, here's to it happening in the next 5 years.
I'm excited.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing these insights into who you are. Again, you are more than just what people see on the outside. And we hope that you guys enjoyed learning more about Douchi. If you want to connect with any one of us, feel free to connect with us on TikTok, on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. We're on Blue Sky. Come join us there and tune into our episode to learn more. Thanks, everyone, and see you next time.